Okay, welcome to the December 1st City Council meeting. I am City Council President Jim Nash, and I will be presiding this evening. Before we begin, I want to let everyone know that this meeting and all participating on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. I now call the City Council to order. Laura, can you please take the roll?
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Foster.
Here.
Councillor Gore.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Nash.
Here.
And Councillor Perry.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura. All right, let's see. How many people, do we have anybody who would like to speak for public comment? And if you're interested in making a public comment, raise your hand. I think counselors know what I'm up to here. If I don't see people raising hands, I'm not going to read my long preamble. Okay, we'll give it another second to see if anybody wants to raise their hand and make a comment. Okay, well, public comment has passed and nobody has raised their hand to speak, so we will move on with our agenda. We have no public hearings, public comment, announcements from counselors and the mayor. I would just like to start with making the announcement that at our next meeting, I plan to have on the agenda our opportunity to finish our review of the surveillance ordinance. That I know the counselors have been and committees have been working on that all year, and that is our due date, is to get it done by December, and here we are in December, and so it will be on the agenda at our next meeting. So that's my announcement. Are there any other announcements? Councillor Labarge.
Yes, I would just like to thank the St. Pat's Association, Chris Powers, Jim Connors, Lorraine Wyman, a bunch of them from the St. Pat's Association, and the business owners in the city of Florence for the wonderful holiday parade that was presented a week ago on Saturday. So I want to thank them all.
Thank you. All right. And also within announcements, I also believe that we have two counselors who want to report out on something, but maybe we'll have that go last. Did I see Councillor Jarrett?
Yes, thank you. So the holiday toy exchange is this weekend. It's a great opportunity to recycle used toys. And so it's the 10th annual. On Friday, December 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. You can drop off unwanted items at the high school. This is at Northampton High School. And then on Saturday from 11 to 1 in the cafeteria, you can take items. It's run by the Northampton High School Key Club, and it's sponsored by the Northampton Kiwanis Club.
Excellent. Did I see Councillor Foster's hand earlier?
Yes, but I didn't know if you wanted that to go last or.
Yeah, all right. I believe you and Councillor Moulton have like a little update for us.
Just.
Are there any other announcements?
Yeah.
Councillor Maori.
I wanted to announce to counselors and the community that the Finance Committee is trying something new this year. We're going to have a budget listening session next Wednesday, 7 p.m. via Zoom. And it's an opportunity for the residents, and any community member to be heard and tell council what they think aspirationally of our budget that's coming up. We have the budget season coming up, and this is separate from that process. That's why it's new. It's going to be a listening session, so counselors are really just going to be listening but also taking note of what's on the minds of our residents, how they want to see their money spent or not spent. As we know, and we've said before, our budget is a reflection of our values. And so we think it'd be a nice proactive thing to do, go into this budget season really having a sense of what our community is thinking about, and to give them a chance kind of earlier in the process to weigh in. So I hope you'll join us. Again, the link will be on the city website, but it's going to be a virtual meeting, 6 p.m. next Wednesday. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Any other announcements? Come on, somebody's got to say something about the hot chocolate run.
You, go ahead.
No, but you know what? Maybe the mayor wants to. Come on, somebody. Well, the hot chocolate. Oh,
Let me
there's-
go. Let me do it.
okay, Marissa, Counselor Elkins, you have the floor.
And actually, I particularly want to do it because I know we all know very well that the hot chocolate run for safe passage, and which is happening this weekend. It's one of my favorite Northampton events, and of course, it raises it's for a great cause, for safe passage. And my firm is a sponsor, and I've been doing some work for Safe Passage, but what I haven't gotten to do is register this year or raise any money through the hot chocolate run. So I'm going to take the liberty of announcing and remind everybody to please circulate your pages on social media, and if you've registered, so that we can, so that people can pipe in and donate and come out if you can. Safe Passage in that event is I think a defining event for Northampton. It's one of the big ones. So come out on Sunday, y'all.
Well done.
Was that pretty good for
That was pretty
impromptu?
good, considering, you had no preparation, you just went with it.
I'm pretty excited because my firm is on the mug this year, and that's I'm pretty proud of that.
All right, any other announcements? Okay, and then Counselor Foster and Counselor Moulton are going to provide us a quick update on what's up with the ARPA committee.
Sure, just very quick, this request for an update came from another counselor at the Finance Committee last night. And so both Counselor Moulton and I are serving, on the ARPA commission. It's an advisory commission to the mayor's office, reviewing proposals from a wide breadth of community members for what they would do to expand all kinds of fund and expand upon their ideas in Northampton. It's been a fascinating process, and the commission is working hard collaboratively to review proposals and to make recommendations to the mayor's office. And we expect to have those in well before the end of the year, which always sounds a little funny as here we are in December, but we're working fervently, and the mayor will have the commission's recommendations in the not too distant future. And Mayor, I'm sure you have more, if you want to share or not share regarding your timeline for announcements, but I know it's based on when the commission gets its recommendations to you.
Yeah, I really, yes, I don't have any more specifics about the timeline, but I just do want to express my very fervent appreciation for the committee. This has been a huge, huge task. And, I thank the two counselors that are on it and everyone else who is serving on it. This is been, I know, a lot of meetings and a lot of time, and it's just a task that you all have really thrown yourself into and given so much to. I want to really, really thank you for all the time and thought that you have given this. I know it's not, while it's a lovely and sort of joyful task, I know it's not an easy thing to do at all. And so I just want you to know how much I appreciate all the work you're doing to be able to give me really thoughtful recommendations.
Yeah, I would just add, Counselor Foster, that was an excellent summary, that it has been both a very sobering process because it has, we got close to 100 applications, and it has really illustrated the depth and the breadth of the impacts of the pandemic on many in our community. At the same time, for me, it's been inspiring because there are some very creative projects that have been proposed and some collaborations that I think will be very exciting in the community. And so we do expect to deliver to the mayor by December 12th, our recommendations.
You.
And then Mayor, so once you have the recommendations, do you have an idea of when, what the next step in the process might be?
So the next step would be reviewing them and then coming to final decisions.
Okay,
So hopefully sometime in January.
okay. But it'll be within sometime, we can expect something in the spring? Is that, I know I don't want to pin you down to anything, but it just like a rough deadline where by this spring that you're hoping to have awards out there, or?
My hope would be before the spring, but again, it's a big task, but you know,
Yeah.
I know how hard the committee is working to get their recommendations to me and how much work they're putting in to meet their deadline. So I would like to get my part of the process done as soon as I can as well.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you for the impromptu update from the mayor and the two counselors. Any other announcements? Okay. Hearing none. We do not have any presentations. And so that brings us to the consent agenda. Okay, so on the consent agenda, we have the minutes of November 3rd, City Council and the November 22nd Council meeting. We have appointments to various committees with positive recommendations from the City Services Committee. We have John Omasta for the Ag Commission. We have Alonia Skripka for the Arts Council. We have Stacy Dakey for the Planning Board. We have Devin Bruce, once again going back to Transportation and Parking Commission. We have Joe Rokowski for the Trust Fund Committee. We have item 22.194, in order to appropriate senior center gift fund money for health and wellness financial aid. We have item 22.197, appointment to the Conservation Commission with a positive recommendation from City Services for Randy Kratowski. We have item 22.202, an application for supervised display of fireworks. This is the application that's submitted to us through the clerk's office. We have item 22.205, appointment to the Human Rights Commission. This is for referral to City Services. We have Alton McCrae. And that is what is on the consent agenda. Are there any requests for removals from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing no requests for removal, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Labarge and seconded, I believe, by Councillor Elkins. There's no discussion on the consent agenda. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
and Counselor Perry.
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda has unanimously been approved. Next, we have financial orders and first reading. We have item 22.202 in order to accept gift to upgrade audio visual equipment in JFK Community Room for hybrid meetings. Counselors received a brief overview of what is entailed here from Director Pagan. He's here also to answer questions, and this is a request there's a request that we approve this evening, so that we suspend the rule of either sending it to the consent agenda or to finance. So, and Mayor.
So I do see that the Chief Information Officer Pagan is here. He's been trying to connect to audio for the whole time this meeting's been going. So I'm not entirely sure that he's here. So, I'm happy to try and field any questions on this. He sent you an explanation. This is for the community room at JFK, which is the main place where the school committee has meetings. School committee has moved to hybrid meetings already. And so this is to fully equip that space to have hybrid meetings in the way that the council chambers or the hearing room in City Hall have been equipped. And this gift, which we're so grateful for from Northampton Open Media, is for I believe, parts of the components of this equipment that they need as well. So we're very thankful and very excited for that space to be ready to be used, not just by the school committee, but by the public. It's called the community room, and it's really used by the community in so many ways for meetings. So we're looking forward to having it being fully equipped to handle meeting, not just hybrid meetings, but also it's never quite had the same level of equipment that, say, the council chambers had in terms of really good cameras and being able for the public or on the video for people to really see the speakers and really sort of access it in as full a way as some of our other spaces. So we're looking forward to that space being fully realized in that way.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Any questions, counselors? So there is a request to suspend the rule to Counselor Foster.
Just a quick note to say that I'm really glad to see attention being given to the community room at JFK for hybrid meetings. I've noticed over the last few months, meetings I've had that have been hybrid, still a number of folks have wanted to participate remotely, and it just seems like this is the way we're doing things moving forward, that many residents and as well as other participants on city boards and commissions are better served by being able to participate remotely. So I'm just glad to see this moving forward. And if it's helpful, I can move to suspend the rules, or I can wait.
All right, so you're making Counselor Foster is making a motion to suspend the rule.
I'll second that.
And it's seconded by Counselor Maori.
Yes.
Okay. So with that motion on the floor, any discussion on this motion? Counselor Maori.
Yeah, just to say that I'm comfortable with this not having to be referred to finance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Labarge.
Yeah, I had my hand up,
I know you did.
and Karen Foster had already suspended the rule, but I just want to thank Northampton Open Media for donating that money, because this is a great cause.
Thank you, Counselor. Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to do that, Counselor Labarge, that you still had something to say, but the motion was already on.
I
Anyway.
know.
Yeah. All right. Well,
That's all right.
yeah. Okay. All right. Anybody else? So we have a motion on the floor to suspend the rule. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
yes,
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, we have suspended the rule. And this, we can now consider approving item 22.203 this evening. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
and it,
Okay, motion made by Counselor Moulton and seconded by Counselor Perry. Any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
yes,
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Foster.
Yes.
Okay. Item 22.203, in order to accept non-gift to upgrade audio-visual equipment in JFK Community Room for hybrid meetings has been approved. Now on to the next item. We're down to ordinances. We have item 22.204, an ordinance to amend chapter 281 stormwater management. This is in first reading and it's a pretty big document.
that's huge.
And I see Director Liscalia here and the mayor. And so Mayor and Director Liscalia, would you like to introduce this to us?
Sure, I will let Director Liscalia do the real heart of it. It's very technical. I just wanted to acknowledge, I know that this has the term stormwater in it. I know that there are some counselors who are very eager to have a conversation about the stormwater fee. As I've mentioned recently a couple of times, we have commissioned a comprehensive study of our stormwater fee structure, and that study is just getting started. So I want to again acknowledge, I know that this is a topic that people want to discuss. That is not what this is about. But I just wanted to again, make sure that you all know that we are working on that aspect as well. But I will hand it over to Director Liscalia, who will talk about the technical parts of this.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it. Yeah, so like the mayor said, this is stormwater management for construction and development projects, which is a separate topic from the stormwater utility and the associated fee structure of the stormwater utility. So I just want to make sure we kind of go into this making that distinction. So with that being said, there's a lot going on here. I've put together some comments that'll sort of help us get through this. So just bear with me while I get through it. I've tried to, what I'm going to try to do is just break this down in sort of a easy to understand way and kind of give a general overview tonight. And then request a referral to legislative matters where we can discuss kind of more technical pieces of this, if folks want to discuss that there. But if you'll just bear with me, I've got just some notes I want to get through here and just kind of hit the high points of what you've got in front of you. So that you can do a thorough review and sort of come up with whatever questions you may have. So I just want to start with a little bit of history. In 2003, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, issued the first MS4 permit. So MS4 is an abbreviation for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit. So we call it the MS4 permit for short, and it's a general permit which allows Northampton and over 200 other communities in Massachusetts, so our neighbors like Holyoke, Westfield, Amherst, West Springfield, are sort of local examples, to discharge stormwater into federally regulated waterways. So the city adopted the existing stormwater management ordinance, which is the existing chapter 281 in 2004 to meet the MS4 permit requirements. So what we were required to do is control and regulate construction sites and development projects that disturb an acre or more of land. And we accomplish this through a permitting process, which is sort of spelled out in the existing ordinance. So we've used this existing ordinance to work with developers and contractors all around the city and scores of locations. But just sort of notably, like 303 King Street, the project that's ongoing there right now, Village Hill, Laurel Street. So think of sort of the large development and or redevelopment projects within the city. And those have been issued a stormwater management permit by my office. So in 2016, a new MS4 permit was issued by the EPA. And that included new stormwater management standards and requirements that did not exist in the 2003 permit. So what we have been doing is working to incorporate these various new permit requirements into our daily operations. And we are now required by this permit to modify our existing ordinance to be consistent with both Massachusetts stormwater standards and the new standards and requirements in this 2016 reissued or new MS4 permit. So the ordinance that we are, or the proposed ordinance changes that are under consideration tonight have been revised and updated using a variety of sources. We've taken templates from EPA, from the Neponset Stormwater Partnership and Northern Middlesex Stormwater Collaborative. We've also looked at examples from many other communities, including Agawam, Westfield, Wilmington, Watertown. We also engaged the consulting firm Horsley Witten Group. So Horsley Witten is an engineering firm who has done quite a bit of work for many many Massachusetts municipalities around stormwater. So we wanted to make sure that we were following templates, that we were structurally sound in what we were doing, and that we were sort of comparatively similar to other communities who are subject to these requirements. So now I'll say a few words about what is the purpose of the stormwater management ordinance. And I'll start by saying that, as climate change causes more frequent and intense storms, stormwater management is really the key to resilient systems, to resilient infrastructure, to protecting the assets of the city and the residents of the city. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is control both water quality and quantity. So we want to make sure that the water running to our waterways is clean, and we want to make sure that it's not voluminous, because that obviously causes damage. So, as I just said, we're trying to protect against negative stormwater impacts from site development and land disturbances. They could be over an acre. We're trying to protect our rivers, brooks, wetlands, ponds from impacts from developments that create large amounts of impervious area, think like parking lots or like a really big building with a flat roof or something, which could potentially increase stormwater flow and pollutants in those flows, and then get to our system and surcharge the city's system, which in turn causes roadway flooding and degradation of the roadway. So it's just sort of this, compounding effect. So what the ordinance is looking to do is establish standards, minimum standards and requirements as defined within the MS4 permit and within the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook. And we are, again, trying to regulate and control stormwater runoff quality and quantity. So with that being said, how has the ordinance been revised? What are the new requirements in this 2016 permit versus the original permit that was issued back in 2003? At this point, what is required is that stormwater management systems must be designed to meet stronger pollutant removal performance standards for new developments and redevelopments. And this includes the removal of suspended solids, phosphorus, and nitrogen. So it's not enough to just sort of control the flow of stormwater. We're trying to control the actual quality of the runoff at this point. We have to consider low impact developments. That's abbreviated LID sometimes. That you'll see that abbreviation within the text of the documents that you have. So this is site planning and design strategies that reduce the discharge of stormwater from development sites. So LIDs use a range of site design practices such as reduced impervious areas, treating and infiltrating stormwater near its sources and small structures such as like a rain garden or infiltration system, and using environmentally sensitive designs, preserving open spaces and natural vegetation. I mean, really the key to stormwater quality is vegetated areas. I mean, that's what gets you good stormwater quality and actually infiltrates into the ground instead of running off into the street or into the city system. So what we have done is we have revised the existing ordinance into a shorter and simpler ordinance. And I would call that, or I would consider that to be like a framework. So it sets a framework for us to do all of the things that I just described. And what we've done is we've created regulations, and those have greater detail and guidance for the stormwater management permit process and standards. The regulations are very technical. They provide very detailed guidance to permit applicants on specifications, how to achieve compliance with standards, and enforcement, enforcement procedures that we may need to undertake if someone is not in compliance. These regulations aim to standardize and make formal the application requirements and the expectations that DPW has based on the regulation that's sort of on top of us. So everything we're doing is based on, we're sort of delegated authority for EPA and DEP. So the things we're asking of developers and contractors within the city are things that are asked of the city. With that background, my final comments are going to be about particular changes to the ordinance, things I just want to call your attention to that are the major changes. So with that context behind us, I just want to call your attention to particular sections of the ordinance and explain what we have changed and why we have changed it. This is by no means a comprehensive list, but it just sort of hits the high points and will sort of kind of tie everything that I've said together. So if we start at section 1.1, which is authority, some of what we've done is just housekeeping. So we have created a new legal description that actually specifically references 40 CFR, which is the Federal Clean Water Act. So that's where the MS4 permit came from. So some of what we're trying to do in this ordinance is to just do a little bit of housekeeping, to tighten up language and to make it apparent, what we're doing and why and where it came from. So that's kind of where I'll start. Section 1.3, the purpose. What is the purpose of this ordinance? We've rewritten it to specifically mention EPA's MS4 permit with a greater emphasis on the low impact development that I just talked about and on the long-term maintenance of the stormwater systems. It's not enough to just build the system. It needs to be maintained in perpetuity. So, what we're really stressing, what low impact development does is it's a method to reduce stormwater impacts. We want to make sure this is crystal clear within the ordinance. We've also altered section 1.2, responsibility for administration. There were some antiquated references to the Board of Public Works, which no longer exists in the old ordinance. Because the Board of Public Works no longer exists, the DPW director is the stormwater authority, because that is the highest ranking position within the DPW. DPW director may delegate the powers of the stormwater authority to other employees or agents of the DPW. If we move to section 281.2, applicability, we are continuing to require a stormwater permit for projects disturbing 1 acre or more. But what we now have is the ability to permit, meaning issue a permit for projects that are defined as land use with a higher potential pollutant load as defined by Mass DEP. So before, our administrative authority or our permitting authority was limited to projects that disturbed an acre or more, but that has now been expanded. Let's say someone wanted to put a gas station in. A gas station absolutely has the potential to negatively impact our stormwater system. So we now have the ability to kind of sit on top of that project and make sure that the developer is achieving compliance with what we need them to achieve compliance with. Previously, we did not have direct authority over something like that. So that's certainly very helpful to our objectives. 281.2.3 exemptions. I'll call your attention to that activities have been added to the list of exemptions, which include the maintenance and improvement of land and agricultural use. So this is of benefit to the farming community. You know, if someone wanted to till up a field with 12 acres of corn or something, that is not something that that is something that would be exempt from the process that I am describing. So agricultural activities are just a specific thing that are called out as exempt from the requirements of this ordinance. Section 3.2, so 281.3.2, we've added in a new section to state that this ordinance is implemented in accordance with requirements of the MS4 permit, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, and the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. So everything we do at the DPW, and I certainly give plenty of presentations, but everything we do is very regulation driven. So we are supervised by a variety of agencies, and in terms of housekeeping in this ordinance, we want to make sure that we are referencing all of the agencies who have an interest in seeing that the city is enforcing the rules that need to be enforced. 281.3.4 regulations. So I'll just spend a few moments talking about this. We do not currently have regulations. So this is probably the most important change within the ordinance structure, in that this section 281.3.4 allows the Stormwater Authority to adopt and amend regulations, and it also describes the public process to make changes to these regulations. The details of the permit procedures and technical requirements have been moved out of the ordinance into the regulations. The regulations provide greater detail and guidance, and they can be more efficiently updated to be consistent with changing technical standards and practices. The thing with stormwater is it's sort of a very dynamic field. When the first MS4 permit was issued in 2003, methods for managing stormwater were very, very different than they are now. So it's a rapidly changing industry. There are changes to construction standards and the standard operating procedures that are frequent. So rather than having to come to council every time DEP says, okay, you need to change this thing, or every time EPA says you need to change this thing, we are able to deal with sort of the technicality of this within a regulation structure. So one of the documents that you have that was appended to this council agenda it's like a 40-page document of very technical guidance. It's called Stormwater Regulations. And that's detailed, very detailed guidance to applicants, developers or contractors who are going to need a stormwater permit from us on exactly what they need to do, how they need to do it, what the DPW is going to do once they do it, and what's expected of them. So that's kind of one of the biggest changes within this ordinance, is giving the city flexibility to change as industry standards change and as regulatory requirements change. Next, 281.3.6, actions. The approval and disapproval actions are unchanged. So this is when someone submits documentation to us for a project that they want to do, and we are going to either issue them a stormwater management permit or not issue them a stormwater management permit. What we have done is we've added a new action that allows us to request additional information that's necessary to review the permit application. And allows us to set a time frame for receiving that information without denying the application. So right now what happens is, remember, these are very technical projects. They're very involved. You know, we often get plan sets that are sort of, you know, this thick. And frequently we have to go back to the applicant and say, geez, we're missing something, or, you know, we don't have everything we need. And we're very sort of hamstrung by the existing structure, and that we don't have a lot of flexibility and we don't have a lot of time because we are under time constraints to turn these applications around. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we have all of the information we need from the applicant, and that we've sort of baked in an action for us to make sure that the project is moving along as well as it possibly can without anyone being stressed about time. And, oh, we have to make a decision. Well, I don't have what I need. So the answer is no. And that doesn't benefit anybody. So just a couple of other sections to draw your attention to. 281.7, a certificate of compliance. This is sort of an administrative thing, but it is important. This is a new section that we've added that establishes the requirement of a certificate of compliance at the end of a permitted project. So right now, we don't have an official way to close out the project. We need to ensure that we have as-built plans and that the applicant has actually complied with the terms within the stormwater management permit. So right now we have sort of like, okay, well, when does the project end? So we want to administratively give ourselves a way to say, yes, here's a signature signing off that you have done everything that we asked you to do and that our regulators care that you need to do. And here's a certificate saying that you have done that. So those are kind of the high points of the changes to the ordinance. As I said, I'd appreciate a referral to legislative matters on this, and we can certainly discuss more technical things if there's questions about it there, but I'm happy to take questions on anything I've talked about.
Is anyone as daunted as I am by discussing this more technically?
Is that a challenge?
Director Liscalia, ladies and gentlemen, she's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, tonight she's Professor Liscalia. So, Councilor Jarrett.
Thank you, Director. I really appreciated that overview as I was, had on one screen the existing ordinance and then another the change. I was like, okay, what's changing? I had a question about the regulations. There'll be the public hearing about it, and then there's a part that talks about the adoption by other city boards. Is that just saying we approve of this, or do the boards won't have to approve it in order for it to move forward? But right, or what is the purpose of that?
I'll back up for just a second and offer my apologies for not being able to provide like a red line copy of the ordinance. So just the first part of your comments, the ordinance has really been stripped and rewritten. So the best way I could do it was just sort of with the presentation that I just did. So that's the first part of your comment. As far as the regulations go, I think it would depend on what board we're talking about and sort of what their rules are. I think, once this sort of gets through the council process, the regulations will be part and parcel with that, and they will be sort of part of DPW process. If, let's say, the building department wanted to reference our stormwater regulations in a building permit that they were to issue, they're certainly welcome to do that. There's absolutely interplay between DPW and building and DPW and planning. But I think it would be up to the individual body how they wanted to reference our regulation and how it would sort of interplay with whatever permit or action that they themselves have to take. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounds like, you'll put forward the proposed regulations, and then city boards can, if they want to, say, okay, we are adopting this particular section as part of our permit process as well.
yes, but I'll also add that let's just say we're dealing with a planning project and the planning board refers something to DPW for comment, which all the time. We will reference our regulations in our review of whatever is being sent to us. So the regulations and the ordinance, once adopted, sort of, have legs in that they can creep into other departments in the city, whether formally adopted or not, because that's how we're doing our review.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Labarge and then Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Director Donna Lascalia. A really great report. I did call our council clerk because I had concerns of what are the changes here? And I said to her, it would have been very helpful if it was redlined on what the change was. And she said that she had talked with you and apparently the redlining, adding the new language could not be done.
Yeah, and I think that the new ordinance is just so substantively different. It just kind of structurally, and I think that if we provided a red line document, it would be a lot of red lines. So the easiest thing to do at this point is sort of a clean document. If there is if the council would like, I could provide kind of a bullet by bullet, this is different. It would definitely be multi-page and kind of dry reading. I sort of tried to hit the high points here, but I'm happy to provide something with more technical detail, but a red line version is just not going to be easy to decipher.
Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Professor. I think I have, might be like a 101 level question for you. So you'd referenced Laurel Street there, we know there's a project coming there that's more than an acre. And I'm just referencing that because it's the question I'm getting a lot, and I've looked through the ordinance and I'm seeing like penalties for non-compliance can be a stop work order. DPW has to review the plans. I'm seeing all of that, but the question I get repeatedly is like, what if the plans don't work? What if everything is done to design and then 2 years down the line, there's a stormwater problem, or 6 months down the line and it's not working? What's the recourse? And so I guess if you could just talk about that. I know people can't necessarily go back, but kind of what the stops are along the way so that people can feel assured that stormwater is being managed by these developments.
Yeah, I mean, these projects are very living things. I mean, they're like any infrastructure project. You don't just kind of bury it and forget it. Generally when or almost always, or even always, when we issue a stormwater management permit, there is ongoing maintenance that is required. And that's typically something that's recorded with the deed on the property. So the stormwater permit says, you know, you must do this thing and you must maintain it in perpetuity, you know, for as long as the development shall live, if you will. And you know, we have recourse if that's not happening. You know, we have rights of entry to the property. We have rights to pursue remedies. If someone says, you know, we are going to install this thing, they install the thing and then it's not functional or it's not maintained, we have the remedy to enter the property, to inspect what's happening and to force compliance with, you know, the original intent of the permit. So all of that is included in the ordinance, and we have sort of ongoing rights to ensure that folks are doing what's contained within their permit. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Councillor Moulton, then Councillor Maori.
Thank you, Director, for the presentation. I had a question about the applicability section and subsection B, which I believe you said is new, that refers to changes in land use to a land use with a higher potential pollutant load. And I'm wondering whether that higher refers to the prior land use, or is there a definition in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook that sets a threshold for what's considered to be a higher potential pollutant load?
There is, it's actually defined within, and I'd be able to talk a little bit more about this at Legislative Matters, but it's actually defined within the DEP standards. It talks about development which has the potential to be more problematic. So there's sort of particular metrics. You know, it's not like a discretionary thing. I mean, there are particular metrics that have to be hit, and DEP spells out what those are.
Okay, that strikes me as an important addition to this.
Yeah, it is. It is, because there are certainly projects which have gone on within the city limits that we would have liked to have had direct permitting access to, if you will, and we just haven't, you know, from a regulatory standpoint, been able to do that. And now potentially we could, as long as it's in accordance with what's spelled out by DEP.
Thanks.
Councillor Maori.
Yeah, thank you, Director. I'll probably not sleep as well tonight. That was, the scope of it is pretty grand. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify around our farms and agricultural land. So this does not impact any kind of practice we have around that, or any way we regulate those. This will not impact.
No, and it actually loosens up the language a little bit from the existing ordinance. You know, the existing ordinance is a little bit tighter around farmland, and you know, the new proposed ordinance talks about agricultural activities much more generally. So this actually loosens things up for those engaging in agricultural activities.
That's great. So maybe I'm just hoping, Tom, or there's some communication with the Ag Commission around this, because I think that, you know, at first glance, there might be some alarm about what changes that might bring. So we'll just have to make sure that they know what you just said. Thank you very much.
I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, councillors, any other thoughts or questions? Director Lascalia, I joked calling you professor earlier, but I looked at the documents that were sent to us and I'm like, I'm just going to go to class and the professor is going to give us a once over and then I'm going to go study. So I appreciated the overview, because yeah, there's a lot for us to to take in here, and I look forward to more discussion in greater detail at committee. So,
And if there's something I can do at Legislative Matters to, again, there's a lot going on here. So if there's something I can do when I appear at Legislative Matters, which will be the 12th, to help unravel this a little bit more, or simplify it, might be a better term, please just reach out in the meantime and let me know what that might be. I'll be prepared to talk in, a little more detail about all of the things that we've discussed tonight. I'll try to make it not too dry, but, I can talk about more of the changes and sort of go more thing by thing, if that would be helpful. But I'll defer to what you think might be helpful.
Councillor Elkins.
I'd like to make a motion that we refer this to Legislative Matters.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Elkins and seconded by Councillor Jarrett to refer this to Legislative Matters. Any discussion? Okay, I have just one question for Director LaScalia. In terms of the folks that would really be interested in being part of this discussion, Donna, would that be developers? Who in the community should we be reaching out to who would be particularly impacted by this?
Yeah, I think, think of the folks who are associated with development or redevelopment of over an acre.
So like Gates Construction and folks like that?
Yeah, the sort of larger, Coal Vest, maybe. I don't know if that's a good example, but, they're affiliated with 303 King Street. But the folks who are associated with the potential to disturb over an acre. So I think it's a little bit of a niche market. Right. We're talking about not necessarily any and all contractors, but some contractors and developers who do business within Northampton.
That's helpful. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to refer this to Legislative Matters. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Laura, could we get a roll call on referring this to Legislative Matters?
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Nash,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Foster,
Yes.
and Councillor Gore.
Yes.
Okay, that has been referred to Legislative Matters, which is meeting on, did I hear the 12th? Did I have that right?
When
And
is,
that is at 5 o'clock?
Yes.
And that will be a public hearing, is that correct?
No,
No.
the public hearing would, from my understanding, will come later.
right,
If this ordinance is passed, then in order for the draft regulations to be in effect, they'll first have to hold a public hearing.
Thank you. Okay. So 5 o'clock on the 12th. Okay. All right. Next up is, I'm going to take things a little out of order here because we have some folks here who are interested in the item D here, which is 22.192, an ordinance prohibiting the use of wild or exotic animals for entertainment. And so I'd like to put that on the floor for people to discuss. And this is in second reading. Councillor Foster.
I'm sort of jumping it because my computer is loading very slowly. But counselors, as you received an email from Laura earlier, and it's a little herky-jerky because we were looking at this 2 weeks ago. As we were talking with Chief Casper regarding potential enforcement for this ordinance, we brought up that the ordinance didn't have a proper mechanism for enforcement. So Counselor Nash and Attorney Seawald and Laura has put a lot of work into this. Would like to propose an amendment to just that section E. It's sort of a placeholder right now where it says it shall be enforced by the mayor's designee.
Right.
And what the proposed amendment is that this ordinance shall be enforced pursuant to chapter 40-1 of this code. And I'll break that down for a second. What that means is that it allows for, there's two different types of dispositions for an enforcement of an ordinance. There's civil or criminal. And as Attorney Seawald explained it to me, and I can't get the image out of my head, it's the perfect one. He was like, if a circus comes to town and violates this ordinance and it's a civil complaint, they get written a ticket, they stuff it in their hotel drawer, they say, thanks, had a great time in Northampton, they move on, and that's the end of it. But to enforce it in a criminal disposition is what allows for up to a $300 a day fine. And so each violation in each day would be considered a new violation. So that's what that means and why it would live in chapter 40-1 of the code. So I hope that makes sense, but that's the reason for that proposed amendment, was just to allow for a proper enforcement mechanism should this ordinance be violated in Northampton.
Thank you, Counselor.
Oh, may I say one
Go
more
right
thing?
ahead.
All right, here I am. Also, I know we all received today an email or a letter in opposition to the proposed ordinance that mentioned that we should have an exemption for, I think it's American Zoological Association, but I just wanted to name that the ordinance has an exemption for permanent exhibition, so covers anybody that would need that other specific exemption named. And there's a variety of reasons not to do that, but any permanent installation is already covered.
So I'm gonna hop in here as the other sponsor on this. And I just want to thank Counselor Foster for all of her work around this and bringing this to my attention.
Yes.
2.5 years ago. We've been working on it for a while. I want to thank all the advocates who've also been helping us out as we've crafted this. I also want to thank all of the different community organizations who've given us their time and weighed in and have affected the language that you see here tonight. And also a shout out to Attorney Seawald for his help, and a big shout out to Laura for her continued review of what about this right here, that what we have tonight is, we're pretty confident that this is a not just a good idea, it's a well-written piece of legislation. So it's kind of weird asking for a motion to approve something you're sponsoring.
I would
You
move
have to do it.
I'm going to do it. I want to move to approve as with the suggested amendment.
Second,
Okay, motion made by Counselor Elkins and seconded by Counselor Maori to approve this with the recommended amendments by the sponsors. Counselor Foster.
I jumped in to start with the technical stuff for the ordinance, but to build on your thanks, Counselor. I just also want to thank previous Ward 2, now Ward 1 resident Sarah Kate for bringing this to my attention. The Amherst Town Council, the members who sponsored that in Amherst were very generous with their time, Humane Society, MSPCA, and also you, Counselor Nash. This was brought to my attention when I was a relatively brand new counselor who'd been city counciling during a pandemic so there was like kind of a large period of time where, we were kind of doing the basics and not taking on some side projects for a bit of time. And so I really wasn't entirely sure where to go with this. And when I contacted you, you were so helpful and such a pleasure to work with all along on this. And I'm really grateful for your guidance because I think it's stronger and better and far more collaborative because of your work on this. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have this on the floor with the amendments. Any more discussion on this? Hearing none. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and that's the end.
Okay. So an ordinance prohibiting the use of wild or exotic animals for entertainment has been approved. Next, we'll go back up to, and thank you to the folks who showed up tonight to follow this. I see the names in the screens there, so thank you. Next up is item 22.175, an ordinance relative to parking on Stoddard Street. This has a positive recommendation from Legislative Matters. And so this is here in second reading for approval tonight. Counselor Labarge.
Oh, my God, you can hear me. Okay. Could we, I would like to make a motion to take 22.176 and 22.191. No, wait a minute. 22.175, 22.176 as a group.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So we will now, any discussion on taking these as a group? Hearing none. Laura, roll call on discussing these as a group. Do we need to?
Well, the motion could simply be to approve them as a group,
Oh,
and then
okay.
it would not
Right.
require two votes, but
Okay, all right. So we now have them as a
Sure.
group on the floor as a motion. Now I got it. And any discussion on these two items before us? So I'm going to read them. I didn't read the second one. 22.176, an ordinance relative to parking on Prospect Street. Positive recommendation from Legislative Matters on November 14th. Okay, any discussion on these? Counselor Moulton.
These are related, as Councilor Barge pointed out, the no parking on alternate sides of Stoddard Street arose from residents' concerns before I took office. As far as I know, there is no opposition on Stoddard. They have worked with the entire street. And the no parking on Prospect affects the sight line as you enter Prospect from Stoddard. And that arose also from that discussion on Stoddard Street.
Thank you.
Good work.
Any more discussion on this? Hearing none. Laura, roll call please on 22.175 and 22.176.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, an ordinance relative to parking on Stoddard Street and in relative to parking on Prospect Street has been approved. The next item on our agenda is still waiting for a report from Legislative Matters. Is that correct, Counselor Jarrett?
Yes, we'll be taking that up on December 12th.
Okay, and so we were just keeping this as a placeholder. That's the Crutzler system for keeping track of everything. It works very well. So I'm not seeing anything else on our agenda. So I will, any new business? Hearing no new business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Counselor Labarge and seconded by Counselor Perry. Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
Counselor Foster,
Yes.
Counselor Gore,
Yes.
Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. It's not quite a snow day, but it was a pretty quick